Right. And that's something I should say to all of you guys is I am going to record all the sessions and you can have me send them to you, but you guys can also record on your end the whole session, or maybe just when your feedback is happening, whatever you want to do. Right down there at the bottom, you've got a record button that most of you are familiar with. So yeah, go for it. Oh, good. There's Mary numero duo for the day. Hi, Mary.
Hello. How are you?
Doing great. Doing great. We're just getting started. I just hit record and I just let everyone know that you can also hit record on your end.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So now all that's not quite here with us yet is my sister. So I can, easily, that's no problem. I can totally crack the whip on her and get her in trouble. Yeah, this is our team here, and I want to get everyone introduced to each other as soon as possible. But you 6 plus me will be number 7. You guys are who's in the class, and you'll be getting feedback and giving feedback to each other all along the way. So for those of you that have been in the storytelling class, which is Linda and Dana, you kind of know how that works. And you know how amazing and important the team is. So, please try to be here for each other and just use each other as kind of a focus group for your talk. That's one of the ways that we can get to the stage so quickly, is that we've got like 6 other eyes on our talk. So the power of this small group is huge to get that idea refined, get the communication of it refined, and go ahead and get up on stage with it at the end of the class. So I'm so excited. That's one of my ultimate goals in life, is to not just be a teacher who teaches in theory, but who actually really works on the results and the implementation of the ideas. So hence, we've got a stage for you coming in. I don't want that to freak you out. I want you to use that as a little extra pressure and a little nudge to say, is this really what I want to say up in front of, this audience? And just let it inspire you to really make it good. Make this talk good. So let's go ahead and get some introductions here. You guys, most of you know me pretty well, and some of you know me really well. So let's go ahead and introduce each other. What I'd like to do is just go around and share, obviously your name. We have that on the screen. That's such a fun thing about Zoom. You don't have to remember anybody's names. But yeah, share your name. And then what I would like to hear, before you share with us your big idea, because that'll come later, but what I'd really like to hear is something that inspires you about TED Talks. What are you doing in a TED class? Like, what is the one thing about a TED Talk that you're like, that's what I want to do? Okay. So I'm going to just give you a second to think. I'm going to text Heather, and then whoever wants to go first can start. All right, who's got something that really inspires them about TED
Talks? Okay, never mind.
Mary Rest, I saw your.
Mary. Either way, I'll go first, or Dana wants to go first. I am open, so
you go first, Mary. I saw your hand. So
okay, sounds good. So my name's Mary Rust, and what inspires me most about TED Talks is the ability and the reach that a TED Talk can bring. I've always had a passion to get this message and my life experience out to a broader crowd. And TED Talks is a platform that has huge reach and potential. And so that's what inspires me most about TED.
Awesome. Awesome. Broad reach. Yes, that's great. Cool. Oh, there's Heather. Hey, Heather.
Hey, sorry.
No worries. I probably need to say, because I almost just said it out of my mouth, my nickname, I have a nickname for my sister. And the nickname is Gitch with a G, Gitch. And sometimes it doesn't sound like Gitch. So I just want, I want you guys to know if that ever comes out of my mouth, just know it's our nickname and I'm saying Gitch. Oh, it just happened the other day. Hilarious. Okay, cool. So we're just going around and introducing yourself and what inspires you about TED? What makes you want to give a TED Talk? And Dana, I think you were next.
Yeah, well, I just have one question for Mary, Russ. What is all the stripy things on your wall? What do you do that looks sort of
Sticky notes.
I know there's sticky notes, but why?
So exciting.
Yeah, so one of my other things that I really didn't want to do, but I was inspired to do, is to write a book. I went to a writing retreat this past summer, and the instructor there says, this isn't one book, this is 5. And I was just like, no, I don't even want to do one, right? But his process is outlining your books within sticky notes. Each one of the sticky notes has a certain feeling behind it. And so he said, put all of your boards up in your room somewhere so that they basically inspire you and are there. It's like an energetic, kind of cool, because usually they're behind me when I'm writing.
Yeah.
And it's like this energetic support of holding me, not wanting to write these 5 books, but there they are. And so
very cool.
There you go.
Okay. You're surrounded by them, so you have to do them.
Maybe we should include that in your intro, is just say something about your background, because other Mary has got a really interesting background too.
That's great.
All right.
Okay, well, I'll go next. I'm Dana Morgan Barnes, so you're not the only Morgan on the planet there, Morgan. And so let's see. I live in Cheyenne, Wyoming, with my delightful husband, who looks just like Sam Elliott. So that's the way it goes. Anyway, so I'm an author. 2 books. Da, 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 da. This is my newest one. You Have the Power of Kindness. And I kept wanting to write another book, but every night I'd go to bed and this one would scream at me. So now that I'm done with this book, I hope it's done screaming at me and I can go on to the other book that I want to write. So I'm an author, I'm a speaker, and a general crazy, insane person.
And what inspires you most about TED?
Oh, TED. TED Talks. I think I kind of like the point that was made by Mary was that you have a really broad platform for your message.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't need, I probably need a lot of help getting my content. I'm not worried about getting up and speaking. I want to give a good presentation, clearly. So I'm not worried about those things. It's just that platform that I feel like it's like just that next kind of a niche up where you're going, okay, I want to speak here, not here. So that's kind of how I feel about it.
Okay, great. The broad reach of TED is pretty awesome. Cool.
I can go next, because mine.
Is that Morgan? Awesome.
Yeah. Mine kind of piggybacks off that a little bit, what you both just said. I'm Morgan Keegan, by the way. That, like, not only the platform, but people that are maybe wanting to listen because they're clicking on the TED Talk or they're there to listen to TED Talks. You know, I can, like, try to get my message out on Facebook, but I would say 90% of my people on Facebook aren't really wanting to hear or read all that. I also think that it helps speaking it instead of typing it, you know. And I have a lot to say, so typing a super long message doesn't always, you know, get through in the way that I want it to.
Yes. There is something about speaking it that can be more connecting, or connecting in a different way than writing it. Yeah. Very cool. Okay, the credibility of TED, the platform, and being able to speak it and have lots of eyes.
I can go next.
Awesome, Linda.
My name is Linda Akey, and I own Competent Assistance for Nonprofits, and I also sell One Hope Wines. And I've been in nonprofit organizations pretty much my entire life, and I do consult with nonprofit organizations on getting started and strategic planning and all sorts of stuff. And I have a lot of personal experiences that I want to be able to share. And one of the things that I like about TED Talks is how inspiring the speeches are. And I like the format of being able to share something that is inspirational and how to frame that inspirational story so that it's not self-aggrandizing, but really does get out there what your experiences are in a way that can be beneficial for others. And so that's what I've appreciated about TED Talks in my own life. When I listen to them, they're quite inspiring for me.
Yeah, you've hit on something really key there. Inspiring, but not about you. It's like made useful for others.
Yeah.
And in fact, I had a storyteller who did the story event just this last time. And at the end, she said, you know, I think actually a TED Talk might be easier than storytelling because storytelling is just all about me. And I feel like if I did a TED Talk, I'd combine it with like content or an idea that other people are supposed to use. And that, you know, that made sense to me. I really was like, yeah, you know, that is kind of true. In TED Talks, your story goes with an idea. So cool. Okay, great.
I can go next.
Mary.
So I'm Mary, the other Mary, and I have Simple Strategies for Family Living, where I work with parents to create more ease. And I agree with everything that's been said. The first thing that really popped was what Mary Rust was talking about, was that far reach and the ease of really being able to meet more people. It just seems like there's such a struggle sometimes to be able to talk to a lot of people and just share a message that really motivates people into something different. And I know for myself, I wasn't really drawn to do a TED Talk or anything like that until I knew I had the message that really wanted to go to that far reaching. And when it came in, it's like been poking me and saying, it's now, it's time, it's time, it's time. So here I am.
Woo! Very cool. Far reaching. And will you describe your interesting background for a second?
Oh, that's my calendar. So each month, it's just a different month that gives me the overall picture of each month. So that just makes it easy for me.
Awesome.
It's very pretty. Like the other Marys. Both our Marys have very pretty backgrounds.
Goes with the name.
What do we got? Colorful Marys or something? It was just
Seriously.
Yeah, yeah.
Excellent. And how about you, Heather? Let's see, you're on mute.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
All right. So I really like the accessibility to a lot of people for TED Talks in general, but really just that structure that also includes a lot of research. A lot of times it doesn't have to, but people are sometimes expecting and willing to listen to that part. And I really like to share research behind my ideas. So I think that it's a good way to get those out.
Totally. Yeah, that is a huge point, that TED is going to require it to be evidence-based, is usually their lingo for it. Some kind of research that supports your theory, also personal experience that supports your theory. So yes, thank you for, seeing that pattern in the TED Talks. Like, oh, hey, these guys don't just present a theory, they really present evidence behind the theory. And so these whole next 8 weeks, well, let's try to do it in the first 4 weeks, you guys want to be looking for and doing research on your talk, and how can I bring in some more facts, some more like a different source that says the same thing as me. You really want that evidence in your talk. So great, you guys are onto it.
Amanda?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the evidence-based, even if it's a personal story and personal experience, they still want to see evidence-based stuff.
They do. They want it to be something that you aren't the only one who's experienced it. Right?
The other's personal experience, not necessarily what is typically classified as scientific facts.
Yeah, this is a really, well, I mean, yes and no. I mean, there's different ways to corroborate your point, right? So we need some evidence, because TED is very academic. So they want to see some scientific fact, for sure. I don't want you to be like, oh, scientific fact, that doesn't really matter. You know, I want you to look for some facts, some provable scientific academic facts that back up your theory, your idea worth sharing, you know?
Yeah, and so what's so interesting in my case, Amanda, is I'm trying to teach people to get away from scientific facts. Now, I will be able to draw some scientific facts in there for the people who have done some work in it, but it's been one of the most challenging things, because honestly, I'm trying to get people away from looking at science as much as they are. And
yeah,
so you know what I'm trying to say.
Right, because I know a little bit about your idea.
Yeah.
So, and here's the thing, like, this is okay. So I wanted to tell you guys from my experience of working with speakers that have gone on to TED and really learning more about the TED process, going to TED and going behind the scenes and hearing them, you know, the power of TED, some of TED's secret formula is that it walks that line between old thinking and new thinking, right? One of the biggest things that we're gonna like really think about for you guys today is challenging the status quo. So I think that's where you're headed, Mary, is like, you don't want to have the burden of like this old way of thinking and proving that things are true in order to, you know, make them true. You want to use a new way of doing that. So what you want to look for, though, is others that are using that new way that can corroborate your theory. You know, so you don't seem or be the wild woman out in the woods with this theory that she hasn't tested. That's the thing. It's got to be a new viable theory. When you challenge the status quo, you got to challenge it with a new viable theory. And the viable part is what we're talking about here. What makes this viable? How is this proven? Even if it's not proven using the old methods, how is it proven?
Got it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. So I wanted to give you guys 3 things that I've learned from my experience, and I'll be sharing all along the way as much as I can from that behind the scenes perspective. I was able to go to the TEDx in Denver, and they had a cool special pass you could buy so I could actually see some coaching of the speakers. It was amazing. It was so eye-opening. Even after I had worked with several speakers who just flat out showed me the guidelines that TED is using after you apply. Okay, so, you know, when you go to apply, they're going to give you a certain number of guidelines, and those are brilliant. And then after you apply, they're going to give you more guidelines too to help you refine your idea. So I hope you guys all apply. I really do. TEDx Denver, because most of you guys are right here in this area, is a huge organization. I think they're moving from 2 TEDx's per year to 3 TEDx's per year. They have adventures going on throughout the year that you can go hang out with TEDx speakers and wannabe TEDx speakers and like get involved with TED more. They've got lots of surrounding events. It's awesome. There's definitely ways to get involved. And I also would not limit you to Denver TEDx because it is so big, it can be more competitive. So put yourselves out there and go find some other TEDx's that you'd be willing to travel to. I am like thrilled. I cannot wait to report to you guys that of our last group of 8, We had 3 people with a TEDx coming up right in their area, so they applied. 3 people applied. One of them got a TEDx for sure. Woohoo! And another one is still waiting to hear. She's still in the running as far as we can tell. She hasn't gotten a no like other people, and she hasn't gotten a yes like other people. And then the other one did hear back, and she got declined. But now she has her application done. She can go and apply to some other TEDx's. So, yeah, because you just never know. They have different themes. They have, different spins on them, and that is a huge factor on whether you're selected. But you guys want the broad reach of TED. We heard from almost every one of you. So the first step is definitely applying. You learn so much in the application process. And that's kind of one of the huge points of the class, is to get you an idea that's refined enough that you feel great applying to every TEDx you can. You can use your video at the end of the class as an audition video, if that's what they want. And we really want to work to get you on the TED stage. That being said, I just want to give you a little broader view, too, about that. So one broader view is, let's say you do get accepted. You will have a coach for several months that is a TED certified coach that will help you refine it even more to be on TED stage. Okay? So you don't have to worry about getting it fully perfect. You just have to worry about getting it clear and really hooky. We're trying to hook the audience here, okay? They will help you super refine and perfect it. Another broad perspective to take is, TED may go away tomorrow. We don't know. But what remains is the awesomeness of TED that can help you improve every single speech that you give. I had one storyteller one person who took the TED class last time tell me, she's like, well, do I give this talk now or should I just wait and give it at TED? And I was like, no, don't wait. Don't save this stuff for the TED stage. Use this in every speech you give, because we're about to go over why TED reaches such a broad audience. How are they doing that? Why are TED videos going viral and other videos not? What is their little secret formula? Besides a lot of marketing dollars, which they do have, they have tons of marketing behind them. But even the best marketing won't make anything stick if it's not really good. So I want to go over what makes a TED Talk really good, and I want you guys to use that in every talk you give. Use something new that you're learning here, okay? Okay, so some of this is directly from watching those speakers get coached at the TEDx. It was so cool because we got to see speaker after speaker, and there's a panel of 4 judges, and it was kind of like America's Got Talent. They would tell each speaker what they could do. And one of the biggest things that they said was, we really want this to be relatable. Okay, now somebody said, I think it was Heather, use the word accessible. And it's accessible to a wide audience because it's gone viral, right? But it's also accessible to that audience once they listen to it, in the way of they can understand it. It's relatable. So I like to use the word human. We really want to be focusing on the human aspects of these ideas. And one thing that the coaches said to everyone on that stage was, I'm going to need a little more story. They need more story around certain things. They might need, you didn't tell us, enough about why this was personal to you. You left out your personal experience. Or they skipped over something so quick. They said, then I transformed my life and everything was great. I need a little more of the story behind it. So that's a good way to humanize something and make it accessible is story. So we're going to talk about that for sure, how to work that in. But as Linda said, you know, not make it all about your story. Ted's pretty clear about that. But they all got that feedback. Need more story. The second thing that Ted is doing that's making them go super viral is the way the coach said it was, she said, whenever I like see a speaker up there, I just want them to make me care. That's the biggest thing. I want them to make me care. And what I think that speaks to is a couple of things. One is this affecting a lot of people? And then two is, how much is it affecting the people it's affecting? Okay? So how we're going to do that is we're going to really think about like a current event, or like you might think of it as a headline, a hot topic right now that lots of people are talking about. In our last group, we had Julie Ulstrup is a photographer, and she was talking about women's ownership of their beauty, and not just speaking up, but showing up in their own pictures of their family. She's a photographer. She knows how women hide from the camera. So the closest related to that is the hashtag #MeToo movement, which is all about women speaking up. And she's saying, you need to speak up, and you also need to show up. Because that's the same audience that her message is affecting. Right? Women who are becoming more empowered. So we want to do that for you guys. We want to find what is the hot topic that's closest related to your message and your idea, so that it's extremely current, it's extremely like topical, and has a chance to go viral. That's another huge thing that TED is doing. Almost every TED Talk, I'm like shocked, you know, I'm shocked that I'll get a TED Talk from 2 years ago, and it seems like it was from 2 weeks ago. It's so relevant, it's so right now, because it's hitting on these big like currents, you know, in our society that's going on. So we'll do some brainstorming around that today, as what is my idea most closely related to? Okay, so I'm just like you know, feeding you with a fire hose right now, but we're gonna apply all of this to your talk and your ideas, okay? Don't worry. And then the third thing that I want to share, we already touched on it, is it directly, most TED Talks directly in the face challenge that status quo. They don't allude to it, they don't tiptoe around it, they just say straight up, why is conflict a good thing? I think I have some examples over here. I can share my screen and show you guys here. Let me pull up my PowerPoint. They just go right for it. And let's see, I think that's, oh darn it, okay. Just got the wrong PowerPoint pulled up. All right, but you guys we already touched on this a little bit. Don't like soft pedal around this. Pick a status quo that you want to change, that you want to be different, and punch us in the face with it. That's what TED Talks do, you know. Yeah, why conflict is a good thing, why you should teach your kids to talk to strangers. What was another one back here? Oh, here they are. Yeah, why your business needs dissenters. That's a good example. Our approach to innovation is dead wrong. See how it's just like going right for it? Our approach to this is wrong. Just stop it. Okay, that's the kind of vivid, you need to pay attention to this kind of title that we're looking for you. Is just a punch me in the face title. Okay, so now that I can find that slide, let me share my screen. And I'm also going to share the other types of TED Talks that you might see on a application. Move that over. Yeah, here we go. Challenges to the status quo. Can you guys see that? Awesome. So, yeah, and why hashtag Me Too isn't enough. So that was from our last class. And let me show you the other types of TED Talks that they will ask you for. Okay, this is straight from TED. 5 types of TED Talks. Challenge to the status quo. I've pulled that one out on purpose. Other things you'll see in the application. Solution to a pressing problem. Surprising firsthand experience. Presenting research data and demoing new technologies. These are the strategies that TEDx has, or the different types that TEDx has defined. But what I have seen from you guys, and I do believe that this is true of this group, is that challenge to the status quo it's the gold mine. It's the most easy to see out of the mix, like to see something hooky. It's the easiest way toward a hook. If you have a surprising firsthand experience, it has to be off the charts surprising. Whereas the status quo challenge can be really any status quo. So I'm highly recommending you look for a challenge to the status quo. Okay, after our beta group, that's one thing I really learned from them. Okay, but there they are, so you have them. So I think that's really helpful to know what they're going to say in the process. Okay, we're doing great on time. Like I said, that won't be the last you'll hear of those concepts. This will be what we're doing the whole time we're in class. But every single class period, I want to spend some time having you guys apply what you're thinking and learning in the class, apply it right now to your talk, and then share a couple of ideas that are coming up for you so you can get feedback from others in the class. All right, so it's kind of how most of the class is going to work. I'll share some concepts with you about each part of your talk, one every time, and then we'll do a writing exercise, and then we'll be able to share with each other and get some feedback. So I just want to break here and breathe for questions. I will unmute you guys, or you can unmute yourself, I suppose. Anyone have a question so far?
How long is a normal TED Talk?
Great question. Let me mute. Heather, your laptop is just noisy today. Nobody knows. It's okay. So a normal TED Talk, it's actually like TED will tell you how long you have to talk. Some people get 15 minutes. Some people get more like 8. 15 minutes seems to be the norm, the most normal. And then usually they go to 18, which is very typical in performance. We're going to be shooting for 8 to 10. So that means we shoot for 8 and it goes to 10. Because that's like the longest audition video you would ever need. Okay. So 8 to 10 minutes for us. Okay. Just enough time to present that idea, tell a story, present research, make us care, and you're good. And I will go over the outline of all the pieces that you need to have. Usually it's in a different order, so you can prove your point different ways, but I'll show you, I think that's coming up in our next class, all the pieces of the TED Talk that you can arrange in the right order. Okay, so just as a show of hands, who is pretty darn clear on their TED fresh idea? You know, an idea that they feel is really pretty fresh. Okay, about half of us. Okay, great. And who is still like, you know, doesn't feel like it's formulated? Okay, other half. Yeah, obviously. All right, that's great. So I'll give you some writing prompts here, and we're just going to spend about 7 to 10 minutes writing with what you've learned today. And what we're looking for, and this, because even for the people who do have the idea pretty clear, what I'm looking for from you in like maybe today or at least over the next week, I'm looking for that hooky title. What is the hook of this? And even if it doesn't end up being your final title, what is the essence of the hook here? Okay, so even if you know your idea, see if you can get it into a catchy title. All right, now let me see if I can get us to our prompts with the correct PowerPoint. Yep. All right. So here's some brainstorming prompts for you. Hopefully it'll pull them up all the way. Or not. Your most challenging situation, and just a list of all the things you learned from that. That would be a really good way to find your inspiring idea. 2, a vivid moment you'll never forget. What is that one moment that really, whoa, it hit me. There I was, sitting with these 2 cousins or these 2 kids or these 2 dogs or whatever it was, and boom, it just smacked me between the eyes. Or 3, a lesson you've learned after years of experience. Pattern, like, oh man, after working with these people for so long, I just see time after time, boom, 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 this is the pattern. That's really good. So I phrased them in a way that I'm hoping to capture a moment. I'm hoping to capture some of that human story behind it. So it's not like peeled out of you and your experience and your story and your like perspective. You know, Ted wants that humanness. So see if you can do about 7 minutes or so on these writing prompts and find that hooky title. And you can use the chat if you want to talk to me like with an individual question, or feel free to just raise your hand and I'll make sure your question gets answered if you think it applies to the group. Good, good, good. Keep digging, keep finding the connections between your ideas and current topics and events. Just let yourself make all those connections and brainstorm. Okay. Alrighty, I'm gonna stop this share. Awesome. Cool. I heard from a couple people on chat, had some breakthroughs going on out there. First of all, good job getting a little of your homework done in class. Yay! That's one of the things I like about this format. And two, just give me a little temperature gauge of, how did that go? Good or like, wow, still struggling? Pretty good mostly? Okay. Okay, good. Good. I'm glad you're feeling thumbs uppy because part of the little more vulnerable side of the class is sharing your ideas with each other to get that feedback. And some people, that's no problem, but I have found that it can be a little vulnerable. And I know all you guys pretty well. I know how kind and warm and wonderful you are. And you're also all kind of impressive in a lot of ways. You're doing some cool stuff out there in the world. So if you feel intimidated by others in the group, like that's okay. That's totally okay. Just know that you are intimidating as well. People are admiring you as well. So just let that be a way to say we're all among friends here and we are all equally kind of putting ourselves out there in the world and wanting to do so more. So yeah, this feedback time is like, it's for you. So it's more than an assignment from me. It's more like, hey, feel free to clarify and identify what you really want most from your time with the group. Okay, if you're not willing to consider one of the options, just don't even give it to us. Ask us about what you most want feedback about. Okay, because I'm going to give you 5 minutes here to bounce some ideas off of your fellow mates here in the group. How I've seen this work best is for me to give you your 5 minutes and you to float out 2, maybe 3 ideas, but float them out pretty quick so you have time to hear back from the group. Okay, so maybe share when you have your ideas pretty well formulated and say, I'm thinking either this, this, or this. What do you guys think? Or if you're pretty set on one idea, just give one idea and say, this is it. Tell me the red flags. Tell me what I need to know about this. Okay? And then save most of your time for replies. All right, that being said, who wants to share something that they're thinking could be their idea, their big idea? Dana! Let me unmute you, Dana. Except you can probably do it faster yourself. There you are. Unmute.
Okay,
All right, Dana, I've got 5 minutes for you. What can we do for you?
People are going to be so sick of me raising my hand first because that's just what I do. So if you want to be first, got to run me over. Okay, so my storytelling thing was about how my father was so incredibly prejudiced, but he was also very accommodating and caring. like Psycho World growing up. Anyway, so the title I used for the storytelling was From Hate to Love. But that doesn't really tell anybody in a TED Talk why they want to hear it. So
Right.
I don't think that'll float. I think that sinks like our old rock. Anyway, so here's one, like, take prejudice out of the equation. White prejudice is old school. And I don't know about the old school part. Maybe there's another word that we can put in there, or passe, or not relevant, or things. But the one I really, really, really love, which is really too long, but I like it anyway, so I'm going to throw it out there. Everything I needed to forget about being prejudiced, I learned from my dad.
Everything I needed to forget about being prejudiced.
I learned from my dad.
Now,
You see those signs that said, everything I needed, I
learned from, yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. So that kind of, anyway.
I know a little bit about Dana's story, but even if you don't, this is really good that you guys really don't know her idea yet, because she's, and we all, we need to care before we know what the idea is, right? So she's got to hook you. So if you're not hooked yet, then what we need to tell her, what else do we need to know about this?
Can you tell me what your definition of prejudice is? Because I think there's some more popular buzzwords depending on what direction.
Using ethnic slurs and being extremely sexist. All women are either cows or whores. That was the way he thought. And that's the way he thought. Yay! So which bucket do I want to fall into? Yeah. Black, he used blacks were the N word, and that just was, he just threw it out there. It wasn't like, oh, those, It was just, oh, I ran into a N word today and had a nice lunch. He just.
And your idea around this, Dana, is?
My idea around this is to get away from prejudice is prejudging. That's what it is. You're prejudging. So step away from prejudging. Learn about someone before you decide that they're not a viable person to be included with. So I see Mary. She has all these colors around here. She must be some kind of a nutcase. I mean, look at her. And look, she's got this little cutie thing in her hair, and she's clearly not someone I want to know.
Okay.
So instead of doing that, I want to say, tell me, Mary, what's your background? What do you do? What do you, and then I can say, yeah, I was right. That Mary, she's right.
So in the nonprofit sector, we call this inclusivity, which is a little bit different than discrimination and prejudice. Although inclusivity may be the opposite word of prejudice. So inclusivity is how we, in our daily lives or in our work culture or our school culture, or in my case, a nonprofit organization culture, deal with different people and allowing everybody to be who they are. And being who you are, I mean, there's Born That Way is a song that talks about that. There's a lot of different things in our society that talks about it. One of the reasons this topic is so relevant right now is that it's become politicized in a way that we may not have, that we haven't seen in a long time. I think it's always been there, but I'm wondering if there's another way to, because I wasn't hooked when it was like what I learned about not being prejudiced. My grandfather was a member of the KKK. And my mom always grew up teaching us to be like the opposite of that. And she really hated that, And for me, when I'm working with nonprofits, I'm working with the opposite of discrimination and being inclusive. So I'm wondering if there's a title about how you ended up making it a positive in your life, and how the title can be on the positive verbiage of it to stop the negative verbiage that is so prevalent in our society right now.
Got it. Yeah, no, I hear you. Yeah.
Like everything I needed to learn about inclusivity, I learned from my sexist father.
Oh.
Okay.
Hey, there we go. Yeah, because to me, it's, because I know your story that you told. It's also, there's something in the relationship between you and your father, which that might be enough. Just, I learned from him what not to do.
Yeah.
But you also learn to include him in the people that you loved.
Oh, yeah.
Him just as he was, kind of, without letting it get on you, his racism and sexism get on you.
Yeah.
So there's something interesting there.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And Dana, I just want to challenge you to say something a little more too as we go along than don't be prejudiced.
Yeah. Well,
right? Because we've heard that. So what is the newest version of that goes beyond that and makes it super current?
And I have a question about that too. So not knowing I know I heard your talk before, but is what you're challenging people to outside the status quo is to break those generational beliefs that have been handed down, and how we can challenge ourselves to break out of what we've been taught as true. And so that whole generational thing that we inherit as what's right or wrong, being willing to step outside of that box and do something different.
Right. And I think that's probably closer to it, is to, even though we've heard all this talk, we need to make the decision for each of us. It's an individual decision to say, I'm going to check this person out without judging them first.
Mm-hmm.
So where my father would, the first thing it would be, well, and
that's that. I like what you're saying. You still have to make it individual, even though you know what you should do. You still have to bring yourself to say, my dad, who I've looked up to and love and adore, is dead wrong about this.
Yeah.
And that internal struggle sometimes people, you know what, I'm going to stick with what my dad said. And I don't care if it's that wrong. I don't care if it's not what I should do.
Right.
So that's interesting.
But I like that everything I learned about inclusivity, I learned from my prejudiced father.
Yeah.
I don't know. That makes sense to me.
Yeah. That's a really great hooky line.
I actually liked the word sexist or racist father in a way better than the prejudiced word.
See, I was thinking racist.
It punches you more in the face, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Prejudice was like Heather said, what do you mean by that? But when you say racist father, you can get to the point he was a sexist too or whatever, but everything you learned about being open to other people, you learned from this
racist father
background,
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, Dana, great job.
Prejudice sounds too squishy.
Yeah. It's 3 syllables, right?
Yeah. Okay. I'm ready.
Cookie is less syllables. I gotta say. Yeah. Okay, we gotta keep going.
Go.
Next. Heather. Okay.
I can go.
Great.
So in general, I would like to talk to people about stop teaching kids to comply. I think that almost all of the things that we try to incorporate into classroom management and, parenting and a lot of things are teaching kids to comply with how things should be instead of teaching them critical thinking skills and then what to do with those. And it's driving me insane.
Yeah.
Okay,
yes. I like that. I think for you, your word that I'm hearing can be upgraded is that comply word. I almost want to use behave. I'm throwing that out there.
Maybe. I don't know. I think that's not a word like that we use in the education field very often. People aren't like, I mean, we use the word behavioral, so if we could change it a little bit, but nobody's like, the goal of our classroom is that everyone behaves. It sounds very old-fashioned-y, but if you walked into a classroom and said, I'm trying to get, to everybody complying, everybody would be like, okay, great. And I'd be like,
yeah, and you got to do what's right for your industry and who you're really mostly talking to. But on the note of the accessibility, a parent is looking for certain words, and behave isn't the only one of them. But behave is more accessible than comply. But there's lots of words,
So is obey.
What's that?
Obey is another word that's like that. I think I understand what you're saying, Heather, because there's really been a movement away from just like not giving children a voice or anything, which actually can cause a lot of other problems where they can't speak up if something bad is happening to them, like if they're being incested or if something really bad is happening in their life, what obedience really actually means. And compliance to what another adult is telling them to do, even if they go give grandma a kiss, come on, or give grandpa a kiss, and grandpa starts, touching him and he's like, I don't like giving grandpa kisses. I don't want to do that, that kind of thing. So I think from that perspective, it's like making that distinction too about what obedience is or compliance.
Yeah, I really like that obey word too.
I'd like to ask the question of, okay, so what are they afraid of if kids don't comply?
Well, I think that in classrooms, it's general anarchy. But, and I think parents are afraid that they will, a lot of the self-judgment that I let the kid choose to do something that maybe seemed dangerous to other parents, or maybe, other parents would judge me as this, or teachers, or whoever. I mean, I have kids who come into I run preschools, come into the preschools and, they're just there for a tour and they don't know any of the rules for the school yet. And they run to go outside and parents are like, cannot believe their child just did that. And I'm like, there's a giant playground outside that door. What, but their concern is that I'm going to judge them that their kid ran to our playground, which I clearly made enticing for children to play on. Because they're just, and they didn't stop when I told them to stop doing that. That's what they want. Parents want their kids to comply with their orders or obey what they say in order to look like that is the good parenting, instead of, talking to their kids about the choices that they're making, and then the kids get to decide what choice they're making, to a certain extent. It's not dangerous to run out on a preschool playground, to a safe area.
So is this enough of a hook? And is there any bigger current event that she can attach this to? And Heather, if you want to speak up or if you want others to kind of chime in.
Yeah, I think that a lot of this has to do with, in addition to teaching kids critical thinking skills, a lot of that has to do with kind of personal identity. And we don't, in schools, really focus on how to do that. And that really leads into a lot of the things around mental health, school shootings, bullying, all of those things are kind of down the pike from that. And, we back up, and we're getting better at backing up and saying early childhood is a good place to address some of these things. But the goals of all of the social emotional programs, honestly, are compliance. So I think we need to change the goals of those programs. We're doing a good job at finally recognizing it, but we need to change the goal to critical thinking and identity development so that when we get down the road to exploring those things when we're older, we're not coming up, kids aren't left without skills around those things to really make decisions about how I feel about the bullying, what I'm going to do about it, and those things.
Yeah, so when she brings in that bullying aspect, do you guys all see how that can be related to that, or even school shootings?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the title can be centered around that. That's your hook, is how to stop that. Using this.
I would agree. You can put that in your title, how teaching kids to behave creates bullies or something like that, There's a great, I'll just want to say a TED Talk that's already out there that has like a punchy title, not quite as even like awesome as yours is going to be, but it still is one of the most watched, is why you should let your kids play with power tools.
We should for sure do that.
Right? And like, it just like flies in the face of what you think of kids doing. And that's what you can do, Heather, is fly right in that face. So yeah, I think if I could give you a challenge, it would be to work bullying or one of your current events into your title. Quickly, Dana, then we'll move on.
I don't know. I feel like we're playing on bullies because it's just such a big buzzword. But I mean, maybe that's what you need. But I don't know. I mean, I'm sitting here thinking, you know, give your kids a power tool and let them critically think about it, or I don't know, critically think instead of comply. The 2 C's that we need to consider. I don't know. I'm not a mom, so I'm a little less in tune, but I know if my dad let me jump off the roof, how many times, didn't bother him. And that's another story for another time.
See how you turned out.
Yeah, it didn't affect me at all.
Yeah. Okay, cool, good. I see some very awesome potential there. Okay, who's next?
I'll talk.
Feedback, Mary.
Okay. So I have a couple different things that could go in way different directions, but it really is the same topic. First one could be why our approach to healthcare is limited and ineffective. Another one is how society is making you sick and tired and how you can break free. How I heal through spontaneous remission and how you can too, or the mystery of spontaneous remission, basically explaining how and why it happens because doctors have no clue.
Cool. Let's get some votes on those 3.
Let's go with that. I mean, I don't know what hooks somebody. What's interesting to you?
Yeah, let's check it out. Just in this little group, what would you guys most want to hear out of those?
The minute you said remission, my ears went ding.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I believe in the first, when you said the first 2, I'm like, I'd listen to that. That's because
Also
I think
good.
I'm on board. So I like them all, but the remission word made me perk.
Okay.
Cool. Others?
I was less interested in the remission because I don't have cancer, or I don't have anyone in my family that's had cancer, but maybe I'm rare. But I do like the concept, and just because the remission word didn't catch me doesn't mean it won't catch the majority of people. But the whole concept around health and ownership of your health, and that modern American medical science is not the end-all be-all of health. I've been dealing with that in my own life. Many of the people, several people here, well, at least Amanda and Mary know that I was in a wheelchair a year ago, and I'm not today. And so that has to do with a lot to do with me ultimately finding other non-traditional therapies to be able to assist me to be healthier every day. And I mean, it's still a possibility in my life. I'm not saying that I won't end up back in the wheelchair. I'm just saying that right now I've got this thing that's working right now, and it's a constant ongoing process in my life. So that also centers around kind of one of the topics I was talking about, but you're taking a different tact with it, Mary. So limited or invisible disabilities is something that is a buzzword right now. This is where everybody kind of has something that's going on in their life. They have some sort of medical issue, and many people, it's a secret. Many people, it's not something that anybody knows anything about. So I think your talk could definitely bring that forward somehow. And maybe I'll go after you and share my ideas on what I want to talk about. Because it's aligned, but it's not the same.
Yeah. And did you say that invisible disabilities is like a new word that's coming out? Because I totally believe that everyone is suffering with something. Another way I could go on is how crisis serves as the greatest gift in your life. Because crisis, illness, suffering, it all serves. And honestly, when you go through it, rather than trying to avoid it, it will be your greatest gift. But I don't know if that's, the direction that's going to hook people. What's the hook that people are going to sit down and listen? Because the message that I have is the same as yours, Linda. It's about self-healing. That's what heals. But what's the hook?
What's the hook?
Well, I love what you just said, Mary. Just exactly what you said now. Every challenge that we go through in our lives, if we decide to go through it versus avoiding it, and because I tell you what, it takes a lot of time, energy, effort, all of those things to try and figure out what is working for you. Because what is working for me to solve my health issues isn't going to work for everybody else. But I want to live in my life, and I want to live as best that I can in my life. And if it means that I have to be in a wheelchair in order to live my best life, then that's okay. And if I'm not, I have something else that I'm doing that is good for me, then I'm doing that.
Yeah.
So I think what you just said really touched on something that hit a nerve for me. I don't know about anyone else in the room.
Yeah, and so I wrote down how suffering serves to heal and restore your life. And I don't know if that resonates with anybody else, but everybody is suffering with something. It might not be a physical health illness. It might be emotional. It might be a relationship issue, lack, abundance, but suffering covers it all, really.
Okay, let's hear from Mary and Morgan. Just you guys have some quick votes here as we wrap up.
Well, I just hear that what you want to do, Mary, is really empower people to know that they can take charge of their own healing too, right?
Yes.
And that there's a message behind that of you can do it. You may not know how, but you can do it. And I think that's where a lot of people, maybe there's a give up factor, or just turn it over to somebody who I think is going to know me better than I know myself. So, but I do like the aspect of there's a gift through all of this. There's something to be received from it. So however that comes out for you. Yeah, I know you.
Okay.
Yep. Morgan, what's hitting you about this? What's hooking you, I should say?
I really think all of it is interesting. I think that, like in my own personal life, these are a lot of things that I'm going through right now. I think it's really hard for me to convince people. Like right now I'm living with my grandma and trying to explain to her that the doctor, like I have a skin issue, it's an autoimmune disease, and all they're trying to do, and I've tried that so many times and it's not helping. So I'm trying to heal and go in remission from that skin disorder through food and like things like that. And people look at me like I'm crazy. And so I'm just like going 1,000,000 miles a minute in my head with everything you're saying. It's great. Yeah.
Okay. So you're kind of Mary's target market. You're right in some of this now, and it's cool. She's already like triggered some of it up in you.
Yeah.
So let me just ask you, between like healed my spontaneous remission and how you can too, or how society is making you sick and tired and how to stop it, or how to make your crisis a gift?
Well, I think that the first one, when you use the word remission, it's very obvious you're talking about health. Like I knew right away in my head, because I've been reading a lot about my skin disorder, and I immediately thought remission from what? And then when you said cancer, I was like, oh, is remission only cancer? I'm very uninformed about all of this. So it really did get my brain spinning, like, remission from what? What did you do? And then the others really had me thinking, like, different, like sick and tired. I'm thinking somebody just at a work, like in an office, being sick and tired of their job. When, even though the word sick is in there, I'm not right away thinking health. For some reason, I don't know why, but when I hear society, sick and tired, I'm thinking business, like office. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think what we're seeing here is that the more specific you can be, the more vivid and a picture that people get. And pictures are extremely hooky. So that's the value of being specific, even if you feel like, oh, it's a little too specific. I'm not just talking about cancer.
Right. And I'm not just talking about cancer. I don't want to limit it to that cancer thing, because that's kind of bit me in the butt a lot of times. And so many cancer patients are so caught into fear, it's hard to even reach them. But I'm sensing, like, people who have a illness or a sickness or something going on, like your skin condition, most of them have tried everything from our conventional system. They've tried drugs, they've tried they've tried it, and nothing has worked. And they want to heal, but they're like, I don't know how. And my message is, there is a way to heal, and I can lead you through it. And so maybe that's more my specific target, is for the people who have tried everything. And I guess it could even be like a mental disorder. You can go to therapists for years and still not be any better.
Sure.
People who have tried everything and nothing's worked. So I don't know, maybe if there's something in that type of a title, that yes, there's another way. And part of my story is my mother telling me there was another way to heal when she died from cancer. So there's a lot of tying in I can do with another way.
Right. Story. Okay. Well, we are hooked. We are hooked. So go back and watch this and listen to all the words that you said, which I wrote down a bunch of them. But
I bet you did.
It's one of those words, right? And you can even watch people's face react to your different words. I have totally done that. See how many eyebrows you got lifted at each word that you said.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Right here. Yes. Good job. Good job. Okay. Who is next?
Wondering if I could go next. I have a 3:00 meeting, so I'll have to leave here by like 20 till.
Well, we'll be done at 2:30, but probably like 2:33.
Okay. So my top two items that I wanted to talk about were invisible disabilities and eliminating the stigma of mental illness. And so when I was writing things down regarding that, I started to actually link the two things that I really wanted to talk, or the main thing that I really wanted to talk about both. And that is that, and this actually goes back to my life when I was growing up. I was taught this when I was 6 years old, when my father said, don't tell anybody that your mom is crazy. It's a secret. So this whole concept of mental health issues being secret and limited disabilities or invisible disabilities being a secret keeps us from being authentic in our own lives. Secrets cause a lot of additional health problems. It can really weigh down on mental health issues because it doesn't normalize what is actually happening within our society. And if you follow the path of that, secrets lead to isolation, lead to this ongoing downward spiral, and in some cases can ultimately lead to suicide. And so whatever those levels are of this stigma, that's really more what I'm interested in talking about, I think, is sharing sharing your secrets and being vulnerable in your own life to have ownership of your life by being okay with sharing the secrets. The more we share about the fact that mental health, you know, my mom, my sister, my brother, me have these issues, the more in society that we can start to treat them and heal them and help them, and it becomes less of an issue in our society, the more that we talk about it and the more that we share it and the less these secrets that we have. And ultimately, this allows us to become owners and thrivers in our own lives.
Yeah.
I don't have a title except for sharing our secrets. So thoughts?
I just wrote down the deadly danger of secrets as like some kind of, kind of getting us in the ballpark here. Other thoughts? Has she hooked you? What more do you need in order for her to hook you?
Well, I was just thinking, no more secrets.
Yeah, why secrets are toxic or something like that.
Secrets are ruining our health. I mean, it's, kind of a plain Jane, but a thought.
Your secrets are ruining your health.
Yeah.
On the flip side, I like a lot of those, or I like those. If you wanted to switch it around, is what I heard with your words is how vulnerability heals.
Yeah.
Or truth. The opposite of secret is truth, right? How truth
heals.
How the truth heals.
This is so funny because at the beginning when you were talking about invisible disability, I thought, oh, that is perfect. But now my whole mind is just morphed into this, the truth will make you well or whatever, it's that invisible thing was not even.
Well, I think you could easily wrap it in because some disabilities are invisible because you can't tell everyone, but some are invisible because you don't. Right?
Right.
You're the one that's making it invisible. Right.
Like if you have diabetes or if you have a skin disorder, like Morgan was mentioning, or, any of in my life, I've been disabled since my car accident in 1991.
Yeah.
And before that, everybody noticed that I was short, but I was short because I had a hormone deficiency and I had to take shots for it when I was growing up as a kid, and that was another secret of my family's, it's like, don't tell anybody, and that was really hard on me to keep all those secrets growing up. It really was a bad lesson for me about authentically living my life, and so there's so many different kinds of things that we are all struggling with. That nobody ever talks about. So, how far can I walk? How long can I walk? How long can I stand? How much stuff can I do in a day because of my traumatic brain injury that nobody sees? Nobody would know I have a traumatic brain injury. Now you all do. So, but that's okay. Like, to me, it's okay to say, this is what's going on. The question is, how will others interpret that? And that's really not my business. My business is how do I feel about being authentic in my life.
Right.
So maybe it's something around letting the secret out.
And I would love for there to be a part in there of how to know a safe person to reveal to, or maybe just how to know a not safe person. And I generally share this, but these are some red flags of a not safe person or something like that.
That's true. I mean, there's many times where it's not, like you just want to share it to everybody.
Right.
And for some reason, I visualized you like wearing a sign around your neck. Hello, I have a traumatic brain injury.
Right.
So there's something about, I need to wear a sign. Or I don't know how to
there's
Maybe when
such
you
an
come on
interest.
stage, you can have a little sign. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a thing around like the stigma of it too. Am I just going to be defined as that? You know, is that
Yeah.
why people don't? Okay, we got to move on. I know we're coming up right to 2:30. If you have to jump off, you can. If you can stick around and finish up brainstorming, we still have Mary and Morgan to get to. And this always happens the first class. We just go a little over, but most classes will be done by 2:33. All right, Mary or Morgan, who's up?
Go ahead, Morgan.
Okay, thanks, Mary. So I have no idea what I want my title to be. Still Mary knows because I've talked to her a little bit about this, but I have an idea that we are going about sexual education and domestic violence education completely wrong, especially with youth. I think we use it, they try to use fear, well, if they're doing it at all, they're using fear, and very like unrealistic and almost inaccurate education. And I think it should really include empowerment, listening to your inner voice. A lot of what Heather said, as in like not teaching that it's not, you don't always have to comply. Really listening to your inner voice, and teaching children to do that from a very young age.
Wow, love it.
Yeah.
Are we hooked?
I want to hear it. Let's go.
Yeah. This is huge.
Morgan, are you wanting to specifically talk about sexual education, or is that just one part of your entire talk?
So I want to talk about domestic violence and sexual education because for me and my personal experience, it was sexual assault that turned into domestic violence, and it just like went together. Like if I would have been educated on like if my sexual education had been advanced and I had my inner voice, you know, I think that it wouldn't have turned into domestic violence. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, totally. And I am going to mirror that that's exactly how they're teaching sex ed, because my kids have told me about the whole sex ed programs there and how ridiculous it is. I mean, the kids can see right through it. So there's definitely something going on, whether parents know or not, I don't know. But that is happening in our schools. They are teaching fear with drugs, sex, everything. It's all fear-based.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing I ever learned was abstinence is the way. You know, if trigger word, this is a lot, but like if rape were to happen, it's going to be a man jumping out of a bush. And just like all these things that are just so not true. And there's so much more to it.
And I grew up in a family of domestic violence. My mom beat my father and beat us kids.
Mm-hmm.
I was incested by my brother, and I was raped 3 times, one of them quite brutally. All of them were co-workers in different times of my life. So what part of it is my own self-esteem. Part of it, like what a healthy relationship is, like for a long time, I just didn't know because it had never been modeled for me and nobody had ever told me this is a healthy relationship. You know, these are red flags. These are signs. I never knew any of those things, you know, and sex for me was a tool that I used to get men to like me and to want to be in a relationship with me. And I used it in a very negative way to attract attention so that I could feel loved, because that's what I thought love was.
So Linda, let me ask you, what hooks you more? How we teach domestic violence is all wrong? Really, it's just for everybody. Or how we teach sex ed is all wrong?
I think that the word self-esteem should somehow be tied with sexual violence and and relationships. Like somehow that violence in relationships and the self-esteem that's needed, there's some sort of tie there for me.
I think that's true, but I'm
Because I
not
wish
sure
that I could have,
to work that in the title.
yeah, okay, maybe not in the title. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, I just think that connection between growing your self-esteem has a whole lot to do with how you present yourself in the world to have a healthy relationship for me.
Yeah.
And that's what really tied me to
Which is
some of what Morgan talked about.
And that's that empowerment word.
Yeah, and see that I was about to say empowerment, but I
Mm-hmm.
don't. But I think it shouldn't be directed only to women. Men should be empowered to say, "No, I'm not going to do this. No, even though all my buddies are doing it, I'm not. I will take a different path." I don't want to. Maybe this is the real audience is women, maybe, but I think men need to be able to say, wait a minute, this is wrong. I don't have to go that way.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And I think, and I think there's plenty of men who are victims as much as women too. It just, the emphasis is so much on women.
Yeah.
And really, Morgan, sounds like you're targeting teachers, educators of this.
Teachers and parents.
Yeah.
Anyone working with the youth. And I actually have like the end written, kind of. That's the only part. I just sort of want to say, I've always looked back and asked myself, what would the past 6 years, my last 6 years have looked like if I would have known in that moment, like, to listen to my voice. And I'm going to ask you all, what would it look like? What would this world look like if we all took some time to teach our youth that? And then what would it look like if we all believed it for ourselves?
One of the interesting aspects of this has been the whole discussion centered around blaming the victim, where we're not allowed to say, I take some responsibility, because it means that I'm blaming myself for something that I did to cause something.
Mm-hmm.
And I still kind of personally challenge that a little bit. Like, I'm not saying that I was raped because I did something to cause that. I think that there were choices that I was making that could have been better choices for me, and that I didn't have the skills and the resources to understand everything that was happening for me to be like, wow, this is not safe.
Exactly. So my point is, like, I just want to I want to move towards where all youth know and have those skills to know, first of all, hopefully how to prevent it. But if it were to happen, what do I do? With inner voice and know this was wrong. And,
Yeah. Awesome, Morgan. Well, you're on a gold mine here. This is very hooky, very current, very timely, and pretty specific and clear. So,
Thanks.
Cool. Okay, let's get over to Mary Dravis Parrish over there.
And I'm really sorry, Mary, I have to leave.
Okay.
Thanks, Linda.
Okay. Thanks. Bye-bye.
So my topic is about a disease that is killing much of our young people. And the title that I'm working on is, I have a couple. So The Mysteries of Perfection, and the other one is Perfectly Imperfect. And so this is about the disease of perfection it killed my son, and I see my part in that, and how I wanted him to be the thing that would save my life by being the perfect kid that would make everything look and appear right and good in our family, without really knowing that. And so I want to get the message out that this is something that I have come across in grief groups with other parents who've lost kids. This idea of perfection that children set themselves up for and can't deal with the disappointment. And it's happening in a lot of our schools, our IB programs, things like that. So, no, that's kind of the gist of it. And thanks for those of you who have been sticking around to hear my ideas.
Well, yeah, I mean, when you said the disease that's killing our youth, at least that's what I wrote down. We got getting some big head nods here, Mary. You know, more than that word perfectionism, because that's a problem, but it sounds like a small problem. But killing sounds like now I care, right? This is important because it's a big problem if something's killing our youth. So you might like not go right for perfectionism in your title because it's the small problem that's causing these huge results. So what else is hooking you guys about this?
Yeah, Amanda, so I'm with you. As soon as, Mary, you said the disease that's killing our kids, it's just so much more catchy, because I get the perfection piece. I get how perfection is killing our kids, and I'm sure that's part of your story, which I missed like way back when. So one day I do want to hear your story, but that's the hook, the disease that's killing our kids. And I was just like, well, what is it? And as a mother, that pulls at your heartstrings, something killing our kids. I mean, mic drop, right?
And we don't really think of perfectionism as a deadly disease. It's like, you know, perfectionism is a minor character flaw, but the challenge of the status quo is you're going to say it's a deadly mindset to have.
Can she say perfectionism is the disease that is killing our kids?
You
but it's a little less.
Yeah, and I thought about that, but I'm like, don't even go there yet, because it makes them question, well, what's the disease? What's the disease? That's exactly where my mind went. And if you tell them the disease, they're like, because they may not be thinking perfectionism is a big deal. Most people don't. But if you have no clue how perfectionism really works internally, which most people don't. Most people going off to work and doing their things. That's why we miss suicides all the time, because we don't know. But I love that Mary's going to take this, the disease that's killing our kids, hook them, and then explain exactly why this perfectionism thing that you don't think is a very big deal is literally killing our kids. So I'm not saying that perfectionism isn't the main theme of your talk, because it is, but don't tell them right up front. Hook them first.
Yeah.
Because I think that, just like she just said, everyone, I feel like, has already made up in their mind perfectionism isn't a big deal. Mm-hmm. You're going to tell them why it is, but you have to like hook them first.
Yeah.
They have to be listening for them to get. Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
That's awesome feedback, Mary.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Woohoo! Great work, everybody. Thank you so much for being there for each other. Thanks for hanging on for an extra 11 minutes so far. If I don't talk too long, we'll stay at 11. What I'd like from you is to email me your final title, and don't be a perfectionist about it, but you know, whatever you gleaned after this session, and email me your final title by next Tuesday. Okay, sometime on Tuesday, so I can read them on Wednesday and be ready for you guys on Thursday. Okay. Yeah, just email or text me. That's it. And if you need to keep trying out a couple of titles on other people, do it. Keep letting the wheels turn, brainstorming, throwing things out to other people, and count your eyebrow raises. Ooh, you know, count who says, oh, I want to come to that talk. When are you speaking? When are you performing this? I want to hear that. Is there a link to that? you know, those are the interested, like, buyer questions, right, that you want to elicit from people. So cool. And you know what? I think I have notes that I can text you guys a picture of. I took notes for everybody, so I'll text you what I was writing down and get you started. Wonderful job. This will continue to develop and unfold every week, and you'll get great feedback like this every single week.
Super. Thanks.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
See you
Thanks,
next
everybody.
time. Bye.